just let me know. So I'm just gonna
Sure,
pop it there.
sure. I think we're live now. So hi,
All right.
everyone. Welcome
Hi.
to the quarantine sessions. Thank you so much, Mohammed, for joining us today. I'm
It's a
super
pleasure.
excited to hear about all the things you do because you're doing, I don't know how you juggle with so many things.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the multi-million dollar question. So.
Right. I imagine. I
Yeah.
imagine. I mean, I think we can start by introducing the topic a little bit. Today, we're going to be talking about customer experience and why is it important. And most importantly, we are in a crucial moment in time. It's a historical moment. Um, there is already a crisis and there's going to be a major economic crisis. So how companies and how can startups shift and work with their customers to better serve them and add value to them, right? So I'm super excited to hear from you. Mohammed, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do and particularly your journey to where you are?
Sure. First of all, it's a pleasure to be on quarantine sessions. It's really exciting, and I think it's really useful for a lot of people to actually enjoy listening to get that experience from other people. I think that's really crucial, especially at this time. so, so I'm first of all, I'm glad to be on the show,
Thank
and
you.
looking
Thank you so
forward
much.
to having quite a useful conversation. Hopefully, people would pop in and ask a lot of questions because I truly enjoy
Yeah,
getting
I see
asked questions
Alexis
and then.
has logged in. Hi, Alexis.
So
So,
yeah,
tell us about what you do with Orange and what you do as a founder as well. I understand you have
yeah.
founded several companies and
So
even
yeah, yeah, right. So just going back a little bit, I'm originally a telecom engineer.
Mhm.
Graduated back in 2007. Started working with Mobineil, back then Orange now, as an optimization engineer. So that is my let's say my area of study on a 9 to 5 job basis. On the other hand, I've been doing since college days, since practically since forever. I've been into the media part, marketing, media, business development, music production and DJing as well. So this whole industry, this music business industry, this
Right.
electronic music. So I started off initially with that, working especially in the sports marketing management, the music business, and then the whole media part, and then started off teaching at college for a bit, and then moved on to Orange, working as an optimization engineer. And along those lines, I started off finally, and I think that's one of the main things. I mean, you have to, if you have a certain idea, instead of just keep on thinking about it, just do it and start it off. And I
Go
think that
for it.
started up back in 2012, where I initiated or actually started up my first company, Kingfoot.
Uh-huh.
And I think from then on, it was that seed that later on, any sort of idea that I had, I just didn't stop and just kept on thinking about it. I actually started initiating it and starting it up, even though not you don't have to be fully aware of everything, and if you have that certain idea. But in order to grow it and start it, if you're passionate about it, as long as you're passionate about it and you have that idea that you think that it might work, then I think it's a great start. And that's where Kingfoot started, 2012. And then I got into a couple of businesses where Cairo Runners, so anything sports related, I was kind of involved in. I studied that a bit, so anything sports marketing, sports management, business development in terms of the sports sector, I got quite involved a bit in it, from Cairo Runners to a fit festival, to consulting on different entities. And then I went on and started up. The Experience Club, which is a travel curation group, so it's a travel experience group, and the Streetwise Monkey, so a media company, and so that is my capacity from this. I think we're going to be talking about it later on, but
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
and then from Orange, and I went to working in customer experience with Orange back in 2014, 15. Shifted totally from the engineering side, so I actually did a proper career shift. Even though I was working as a marketeer and business development for over 12 years, and I officially shifted my 9 to 5 job to marketing and customer experience back in 2014. And I've been working in Orange as a customer experience manager. The whole customer experience journeys from A to Z, from then up until now, where I'm currently digital experience manager at Orange Egypt, handling Orange Cash, basically. If we can promote the different products that we have.
Right.
Yeah,
So you're basically, I mean, you're juggling everything. You're proof that it can be done, that you
to an
can work
extent.
a
Yeah.
job and run. No, not really.
No. You have to be really passionate about it and just like prevent being burned out.
Right. Now, you have experienced both from within a larger company working with customer experience, right? And within your own companies as well.
Yeah.
I want to know, like from the get-go, what is considered a good customer experience?
Right. So just to briefly just put it like in layman terms, just simply, it's the end-to-end customer journey. So the customer, how the customer interacts with your product from the get-go, from just seeing you out there, even as a name, to actually dealing with you as a product and then leaving you and then keep like maintaining that relationship. So it's about that emotional connection that customers have with their products and their brands. I think that is, if we're going to be putting it from like looking at it from bird's eye view, that would be the thing. So that's the end-to-end customer journey, from the very first moment, the very first impression that you see from that product and brand, till your eventual relationship with it later on.
Right.
That would be, yeah.
Right. So it has a lot to do with the values of the company, right? With, you were saying, like creating that emotional connection, right? How does it interact with branding and the branding messages of the company?
It's really crucial. I mean, because obviously from the minute, the minute that you see a sort of a brand, even as from a billboard or on social media or whatever, from the get-go, the minute that you see that logo or that slogan or the way that it's written or the way that it interacts with you, it catches you. Like it's the hook. Like it's like you're fishing, right? So you get excited about something, you get to see it, and then you start your first interaction. And from that moment on, it's all down to what sort of requirement that brand or that product showcases to that customer. So if, for example, I see something that is exciting, I click on it, let's say for an Instagram page, for example, and it has this brilliant logo with like lots of colors and a nice, cool slogan. I click on it, and for example, it's something that is useful to me. So I start interacting. So I start looking at the feeds. So if, for example, if I don't have a good feed on that social media page, or like I'm not constantly updating it with like the necessary information to reach that brand or that product, from the get-go, I'm not gonna continue it. I'm not gonna even follow that page. But if something that attracts me, I'm gonna be following that page, and then I'm going to go to the next step, which is seeing what sort of product that is, and if I'm gonna be actually using that product or not. And once I click on that product and start using it, that's a whole nother level in terms of experience. So now I'm actually interacting with the brand. So if it's something that I want, so for example, if we're talking about an e-commerce site where I'm buying something online, so I see something that I like and I start buying it. So the whole UX UI journey of this whole journey of browsing through the website, choosing the different like products, and then checking out, and then actually receiving the product, and then the after sales service. So it's a whole journey of things, and it's all quite different based on different industries, obviously. Because let's say when we're talking about e-commerce, that's a whole way of looking at it from one point of view. If you're looking at it from the music business, that's another thing. If you're looking at it from the sports point of view, that's another thing. If you're looking from the media point of view, that's another thing. Traveling, obviously. So tons of industries, and each industry has its own way of looking at it and how you're dealing with it and how you're actually creating that emotional connection with your consumer. So I think the main question is, what sort of industry are we looking about? But again, looking at it back from that bird's eye view of looking at it from like afar, it's all about how you interact, like the minute that you see that brand till the moment that you leave that brand. So this is the whole journey that you need to be looking at.
Right. And as you were saying, right, it really interacts as well with the user experience, with the user interface. Like there's so many things that have to do with that, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I want a lot of the entrepreneurs in our community are at the early stage of building a startup or a company. How would you advise them to work on their customer experience if they don't come from that background where they know the techniques and how to design that? How do you really build a customer experience?
It's all right. So we have a couple of things. So the first number one thing is that you need to be really passionate about the brand or what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you need to be, and because you are passionate about that, then eventually you'll have this sort of know-how as a customer. So let's look at it from a customer point of view, not from a business point of view.
Yeah.
The main thing is that you act. So if you don't have experience, I'm assuming that this, let's say this entrepreneur doesn't have that necessary experience to actually create processes for
Mm-hmm.
the customer journey and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Just look at it. The number one thing I would say is that look at it. If you were a customer for that brand, what would you like? What would you like to see?
Mm-hmm.
So that is the number one question. Just
Yeah.
think about it that way. So if I'm buying something online, what would be the first things that I would want to see in this sort of, let's say, e-commerce site that I want? Would it be like the website? I like the logos, like different logos and where they are, how I'm browsing, this experience of actually choosing a product and buying it.
Mm-hmm.
So look at it from a consumer point of view, and
Yeah.
then try to mimic that as much as you can. So
Right.
that is the case in case if you don't have any resources, if you don't have any experience, because I think a lot of people misplace customer experience, or it's like because obviously customer experience is a buzzword in the
Yeah.
modern times.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can apply it literally on everything,
Mm-hmm.
from not just businesses but on like relationships even. So the thing is, a lot of people, as with relationships, as with everything else, you need to have experience. So it's
Mm-hmm.
customer experience. So you need to have actual experience to be able to create that awesome customer experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not a lot of people just do it. It's not about just following processes or like making sure that everything is spot on, but you need to have that sort of, let's say, passion or like that, let's say, experience in different things to actually do it properly. So in case you don't have experience in that, the number one thing is put yourself in the customer space, look at
Mm-hmm.
yourself as a customer and try to
Mm-hmm.
mimic whatever you feel that is great from your end. That would be the number one, let's say, advice that I would give to someone who doesn't have the necessary resources or the know-how or the means to actually create that sort of customer experience. If you have that know-how, if you have the money to actually get in someone, obviously, then just get in someone who understands it and just do it. Yeah.
Right, right. I remember. So there's this podcast that I listen to sometimes called "Building a Story Brand," and I remember once I heard something that really caught my attention, which was companies when they create moments of awe, moments
Mhm.
of like amazement, they really manage to basically grab the customer, right, and give them an experience of a lifetime that is memorable and that kind of ensures that loyalty that we're looking for.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? Do you know brands in the Middle East in particular, or in Egypt, or global brands that have great customer experience, that have managed to create those moments of amazement?
I mean, there are too many to mention, I think, but because obviously there are tons of brands who are great at that. I'm not sure
Mm-hmm.
specifically within the Middle East. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
nothing like pops up in the middle of like right that. But I think I wouldn't say like Apple and so forth because they're great at customer experience, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, like Heineken as well as a brand. So this sort of like this awe factor that like Adidas as a brand as well. I'm a big fan of Adidas. So I like all those sports apparel brands.
And
They're great.
and what would you say, for example, that makes that experience amazing or memorable?
Yeah. So we can put it out like in like three, four things. So
Mm-hmm.
the very first thing is getting that initial excitement factor. So okay, that interest factor. So gauging that interest, like people getting people to okay, I want to see what sort of thing. So that awe factor, like you were saying. So that
Mm-hmm.
would be the first thing, and it's purely based on the different industries. Because again, it's quite when you're talking broadly about different things, it's quite different. So if we're going to be talking about banking, for example, so
Mm-hmm.
let's say from a banking perspective, especially if we're talking about those times like currently and what is happening,
Yeah.
going from cash to cashless. So this digital transformation is really crucial at this very moment in time.
Yeah.
So getting the off factor would be to people are online at this very moment in time, or they're like watching Netflix or watching
Mm-hmm.
VOD platforms. So the first thing you do, like you do some sort of campaign where you're partnering up with those VODs or you're directly reaching your customers to pop in there and just make sure that they know that you're trying to change from this sort. You don't have to leave your home to do your cash transactions, for example. And you need to make sure that you have the platforms when you're talking about banking, for example. You need to have this sort of platform where you have the seamless user experience, where you're not having any faults during interactions. You're not having faults during your mobile transact, your money transfers, where you can transfer your money let's say from one customer to the other without actually leaving your home. And this sort of seamless transaction and
Mm-hmm.
this sort of platform, I think, is crucial to the customer experience. Now, creating a loyalty program, for example, or gamification while you're doing that will create even more loyalty to the brand.
Mm-hmm.
So the ease of it. So I think the cruciality or the most important thing during this sort of customer experience, not just like the wow factor that's great in getting you there and just like making you be there, but when you're actually using this sort of platform or when you're using this sort of service, how you're interacting with it, like if you have errors while you're doing it, if it's seamless or not. And really crucial as well is the after sales service, so or the customer experience, the customer service in this case.
Yeah.
Because a lot of things, so you might have an error in the beginning, but having this sort of platform or even if it's manually where you're checking up on customers. I had a very interesting let's say experience with one of the, I'm not sure if we're allowed to say names of different apps or not. But yeah, so like Instash, like the grocery market kind of thing, this application where you buy your groceries online. And I had one bad experience with it initially, where they announced that they have this sort of promo code where if you do this promo code, you'll get a, let's say, a discount. So I did the promo code and I ordered online, and that was like the first week of them operating.
Yeah.
And once I actually did that, the order didn't come through. And the supermarket, they never called. So no one from the customer service from the app, they didn't call. And they actually called next day saying that we didn't get your order, so we can't do anything about it, and we're sorry. Do you still want to do an order or not? So that was 24 hours later, and it was something that. So, and they didn't even offer, let's say, some sort of discount or even for the next purchase or a free delivery or whatever. They just said, no, that's what we're not operating fully, and we're not even. They didn't even say they were sorry.
Right.
And that was the last time I used Instash at that moment in time. Even though there was this sort of other online grocery, which is Welo, which is another app.
Yeah.
And the minute I did the order, they actually called me saying that we have an extra offer that we're just making sure that the order is correct, and we're giving you another offer, so the delivery is going to be for free. And so that's sort of that. Okay, so I started using Welo more.
Right.
Now going back to it, because of the after sales service, Welo, they don't have enough, let's say, partnerships with different supermarkets, whereas the other application they have like with 5 partnerships. So I ended up, and the user interface for the other application is actually better than Welo, for example. So I ended up, even though that was a bad experience, I stopped using it for 2 weeks. Like 3 weeks down the line, I tried it again. It worked fine, so I stuck to it. So these sort of little things, I think it's crucial, even especially at this very moment in time. I think it's crucial. And again, one bad experience can totally screw up all your 100 good experiences.
Right.
Yeah, if I may add as well, so that coming back to that, like one small experience would actually mess up all the good work that you've done. I was the media manager for Cairo Runners, which is like one of the first running initiatives in Egypt. And we always do like weekly runs, and then we ended up with a half marathon and then a full marathon. And every time we had this great experience, this great running experience, and that made people like every week come in, like double the number of people coming in and running. And we had like 40-50 runs under like properly managed runs, like proper events with 3,000 4,000 people running in the streets. And even after 40-50 runs, and you had this awesome name, like this brand association of Cairo Runners being the best organizers and so forth, one bad run would mess that whole experience up. Right. I think that is crucial. So we always have to be on our toes in order how to like properly manage the event and making sure that the experience is great for the runners.
Right. Yeah, and I think your previous example as well shows clearly that difference and that joint effort, right, between the customer experience and the customer support, right, or the customer service,
definitely.
Right?
Definitely.
Because it's not, you may have good customer service, as you said, the second start of Welo, right? But perhaps the experience that you had because of the partnerships, because of different reasons, was better with the other startup. So there's so many things involved, right?
They go hand in hand. I mean, you're absolutely spot on. I mean, they absolutely go hand in hand, because if you have the processes and you have like the customer journeys and you have everything on spot, and then you have people who are not who are giving the brand a bad name, then obviously that doesn't work. So it has to go hand in hand. And I think that is why it's crucial to have someone with a lot of experience handling this sort of customer experience journey, and to actually have the power to say yes or no in the organization, because obviously they should know better in that case.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Now, you just mentioned critical times. We're living, I mean, a pandemic we never imagined
Yeah.
possible. And it's not only a major health crisis, but most importantly, it's an economic crisis that's coming and
Yeah.
it's already there. A
Yeah.
lot of a lot of small businesses have been forced to shut down, and companies are
Yeah.
struggling to function because basically nobody can go outside, right? Um,
Yeah.
Now, how can companies and how can small businesses or startups that may have gained some traction, may have already, they're operating, how can they really reimagine their customer experience and see how they can serve their customers maybe in different ways? Like, have you been seeing examples of companies that are shifting
Yeah.
towards online, perhaps? Like, can you tell us a little bit about what's happening right now?
Yeah, like you said, it's the thing is it's unprecedented times, so it's absolutely new for a lot of people, and a lot of industries have been affected by that. So you have different industries. So with the travel industry,
Hmm.
it's almost at a standstill right now. And so a lot of the companies, they have to find ways to, because obviously they can't do anything from the business point of view.
Mhm.
So they have to go elsewhere, whether be it online, be it partnerships with other companies where they can help with the NHS with different aspects. So you have a lot of industries who are at the standstill right now, and they can't do anything except, and that is my advice to them, basically, or that is what they should do is they have to find ways to just keep their presence there and just be there, whether be it again partnerships, online presence, or any sort of, let's say, collaborations that they do with other companies where they can help out in any sort of way. And then you have the companies or the industries that is basically a lucky strike for them. So, these times are just absolutely magnificent for them because everything is now moving towards this online. So anybody with any sort of business that doesn't need a lot of logistics
Mhm.
or has minimal logistics or is online, I think that is their time to shine, and that is their time to be creative and to actually grow. So we can talk about like three examples regarding
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
So first thing would be an online. So Zoom, for example, I think that is an absolute Zoom and like likes. So that is a great time for them because a lot of people are now working from home, and most of the, whether it be calls, whether it be business interviews or whatever, they're mostly on Zoom or on Skype or whatever. So creating this sort of experiences, making sure to the bugs are ironed out, customer service. So like moving their personnel to the customer service side. To making sure that everything, if anybody has, like if they have accounts, so different business accounts, they can. So I think like like increasing the personnel in the sales part, like the business development and sales part, and then the customer service part, where you're trying to get in more business accounts, for example, from that sort of view, and then from a customer service point of view, where you're making sure that all the bugs are ironed out, and if anyone has any problems, that they would be solved ASAP. So I think Zoom on that side, that is one example of it. Two other examples would be banks and operators. So
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
with banks, they have, I think most of them are trying to be ready or already kind of ready to go fully digital. So I think this is a catalyst. These times are a catalyst for pure digital transformation. It was initially gradually started up. So gradually they were moving towards the digital transformation and digital platforms with the cashless and the cashless transactions and all this online transaction sort of thing. But this is an instigator and a catalyst for them to fully move on towards the digital side. And the banks started doing that with increasing limits or removing interest rates or just increasing like making people do more online interactions or online transactions instead of actually going to the bank. And they're playing it safe as well, where it's sort of a PSA where they're trying to say as well, like, I mean, stay at home, do your transactions at home. So they have a lot of stuff to be working on, and that's what they actually started doing. As
Mm.
long operators are the same as well. So now the operators, be it Orange, Vodafone, we or Etisalat, are now, like if we're talking about Egypt or anywhere else.
Yeah.
So moving towards that digital side as well with the likes of cash services or the different online platforms with the applications. So everyone is doing their job or their utmost to move everything towards the digital side, because I think at least for the coming 6 7 months, that is going to be like the trend. Or so if anybody is actually prepared
Yeah.
in a proper way
Yeah.
to go fully digital, they'll make things a lot easier and they'll increase their sales. And I think the first, like say, the first companies to do that, they'll have this sort of competitive edge for that.
Right.
And on the other hand, so that's from the pros side. So, but from the
Mhm.
negative side, you have events companies, like from whether from the sports side or just events in general.
Yeah.
There are no events whatsoever.
Yeah.
So they're at a complete standstill. No sports, no events going on, be it from the music industry, be it from the sports industry, from like weddings,
Yeah.
different events and so forth. And the first, let's say, the first industry to actually make some sort of movement towards that digital side would be the music industry, especially with the electronic, the electronic music dance scene.
Yeah.
You have a lot of festivals. I mean, it's almost festival season upon us with like Ultra USA, and then you have Tomorrowland, and you have like, yeah, at least
Yeah.
you have like 4 or 5 different big festivals going on, which has a lot of attendance. So you've got like 300,000 people, 400,000 people attending these sort of festivals. And the first thing that they did right now, they're trying to move like those festivals online, whether it's going to be via tickets as well or not, because they're going with the live streaming. So now you have like schedules, like proper full-on timetable schedules of those festivals,
Yeah.
where instead of you actually just buying tickets to actually just get those sets or like listen to this music at home, the more you tell your friends, the more you interact with your friends, and they're gamifying it, so you get more points, and then you can actually have some points to be able to get that ticket and actually enjoy Tomorrowland at home. Obviously, it's nothing like the real experience, but that's the best
Right.
that they can do. So
Right.
that's yeah. So I mean, the music industry are trying their best to move into that part with the live streaming, because that is currently the only available platform in terms of streaming services.
Yeah.
Sports entities, they have a lot on their hands, so nothing will be apparent between like a month, 2 months down the line. Same with travel companies. So like with the different travel industries, everything is on a standstill for this month or two, and I think the only thing that they can do is think about it, like how will they be able to cover this sort of loss 2 months down the line, while in this moment just making sure that they're there, they're constantly there, so they're not lost in a way.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen something similar as you were mentioning with the fitness industry, basically sports and fitness, with
Yeah.
lots of instructors doing I mean, I'm a follower. I'm one of their trainees, right? So they do lessons, whether it is Zumba, whether it is regular. I mean, Zumba has a great model, and they've already streamlined it with their instructors, but lots of yoga instructors and they start for free, and they start free, 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 free. You basically build loyalty, and then they start charging,
Exactly.
right? But what would you advise to people? And I'm sorry, we're extending a bit long, but a lot
No, absolutely fine. I mean, I'd love to keep on talking for like 24 hours. That's
of so companies that sell products, what can they do right now? Because they rely on logistics, they rely on delivery services. What would you advise?
Well, I think it's quite difficult at this very moment in time, because obviously their sales are gonna take a hit. So that's the first thing they do is that they need to understand that their sales are gonna take a hit, and they have to plan for that and how to overcome that sort of hit later on. But up until then, they need to work out with their resources, with their available resources, even in that small window, where they increase the efficiency of, let's say, deliveries, or if we're talking about some sort of, let's say, because obviously with products. So if you have shops who are not online, then those shops need to move online in the quickest way possible. So that would be the first thing to do.
Yeah.
And now you have the logistics of actual delivery times, because now the delivery times are quite limited to, like, say, 4 or 5 p.m. here in Egypt. So that's another thing. So by increasing the number of people, kind of in a way, working during those working hours, and being more efficient to actually deliver those orders with properly communicated times to customers, in order not to lose that sort of customer experience as well. I think that is crucial as well. So I think, like, so my advice would be, try to go online, try to move everything online, in terms of whether attracting new people, or whether like like putting on promotions, obviously, to increase the sales in a way. And then when you actually have those sales, then you start uh, fulfilling fulfilling them in the best way possible,
Mm-hmm.
using the personnel available that you have. And then during take that time where it's not just about the sales, but take that time to actually come up with new creative ways
Mm-hmm.
to increase the customer experience and to increase sales after after the dust has settled. So
Mm-hmm.
that would be the advice that I would give to those companies.
Right, right. Another industry that I would say has a big potential right now is edtech, right? Educational, everything related to
Mm.
educational platforms. How do you rate? How do you measure? How do you assess the quality of the customer experience in that sector, basically in that industry?
Well, obviously, it depends on a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
You need to have you mean because as what do you call it, as an infrastructure, so as a digital infrastructure in Egypt as well, yes, it's getting better by time,
Mm-hmm.
definitely, but
Mm-hmm.
you currently, not all people have like the necessary let's say infrastructure or the necessary internet speeds to actually go on and be able to have a fully interactive online let's say sort of education,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
purely online. So
yeah.
I think the first thing that we do is, yeah, you need to make sure that the teachers or like the educators are fully aware, whether digitally aware or they can fully be able to use like digital products to show what they can, or to explain to students or to interact with students. So if certain schools or if different if they don't have those platforms that help in that, and I think there are different sort of platforms. I'm not familiar with
Mm-hmm.
those platforms, or like with different names. I think I'm only familiar with Moodle or like one of those, I think, but I'm not, because I'm not using them, because every let's say every education online platform has its own platform, basically.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about schools, then they need to get in touch with the companies that provide those digital services or digital platforms, so they can start using them. The problem is that if schools are not doing that already, then you'll have this sort of a learning curve,
Mm-hmm.
both for from the administration and from the teacher side and from the student side. Up until that learning curve moves on, and then you have this sort of experience from both sides, then that will take a lot of time, or a bit of time. But if you have already schools using that on a day-to-day basis, even by a small scale, then that learning curve will diminish, and they'll be able to move on to, let's say, an 80% digital presence with that. But in terms of assessment for it, obviously you have a lot of exams. It's not nothing new, because obviously you have a lot of online courses, and you have a lot of online education platforms.
Yeah.
So you're basically just reinventing the wheel. You're not. It's not something that is completely new.
Yeah.
So by doing that, you have lots of quizzes. You have collaborations done between students. You just need to have. You need to be fully prepared. I think that is the main thing. If you're not prepared, I think then you will have an issue, which is, I think, like 80-90% of the cases, that they're not fully prepared.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the chance for edtech to come into play. So just get in your personnel, get in your sales guys, get in your business development guys, make those calls to the schools, uh, show them what you have, what to offer, get in those sessions, even if they're online sessions, online video sessions on how to use the stuff. And the schools cannot stop, right? So if they have this sort of platform they can actually use, then they're going to be using it. So it's the problem is getting, and from the parents' point of view as well. So, and then you go to the parents' side, they need to be fully aware that their children or the people who want to learn would be fully aware that they stick to the schedule, they be responsible enough to actually work with those digital platforms. So it's quite interesting, and I think,
Yeah.
but again, I think from what I'm seeing, again, the main thing is that the learning curve for both the educators and the teacher side and the kids side is the main issue here.
Yeah.
And to be frank, I mean, kids, I mean, not just kids, I mean, like children, people, I mean, the people who are at colleges and schools at this very moment in time, they're better with technology than than,
Yeah.
let's say, than
Yeah.
with the older generation. But so I think that they would be having a field day at this very moment in time. It's great for them.
garner their feedback?
All right, perfect. So yeah, it cut off. So yeah, now it's back.
Sorry.
All right, perfect.
Yeah, so I was saying, you were just mentioning about the importance of engaging, right, with the customers and getting basically their feedback and seeing how you're serving them and how you can better serve them. How do you recommend to do that? What? Hello? Are we still live? I think Mohammed got disconnected as well. About let me ask if he can log in again. I think we both got disconnected. Let's see. Yeah, there he is. There we are. So sorry with
that
signal these days. It's killing us.
That is the importance of customer experience.
Exactly. Anyway, so just one last question regarding the how, right? The how entrepreneurs, founders, or how businesses can engage with their customers, with their users, and garner their feedback and their, how are they finding the experience finally?
Yeah. So I think the most important thing is to have some sort of let's say questionnaire or team in front where you're getting the feedback from the customers somehow. Mm-hmm. Be it questionnaires, be it online market research firms. So I think that is really crucial. Mm-hmm. Focus groups, just to have a list of processes. So you need to have processes in place to mm-hmm. monitor and assess the sort of experience that the customer has. Mm-hmm. The best thing would be is to actually go to some sort of marketing or like market research firm or any of those firms where you're assessing the whole customer experience journey from A to Z, and then you have this sort of customer experience platform or let's say customer service platform where you're getting feedback, online feedback. So a lot of complaints come online, so you have this sort of feedback form or monitor the comments. You have a lot of platforms which can do that, and analytics tools and as well. So making sure and trying the journey by yourself as well. I think that is crucial. Mm-hmm. So you need to, like I said in the very beginning, where you need to put yourself in the place of the customer. You as a customer, how would you want to do that? And I think that thing is at this very moment in these current times. I mean, not in, because you have two things. If we're talking now, then the best thing would be to get in focus groups or even online forms to be filled out to showcase like the different experiences that you have. But once everything is like the dust is settled and you can actually go and see the things, you need to get in. Need to get in the people, actually do actual focus groups. Interact directly, see how your customers interact and what they actually want, right. And then use that to enhance your customer experience overall based on your industry, obviously.
Right. Well, thank you so much. This has been so insightful. The examples, I'm loving the examples because they give you a clear idea of, all these different terminologies, all these different things that, sometimes are a bit confusing for entrepreneurs. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I hope sorry?
It's been a pleasure. I mean, I loved it. Yeah, anytime.
Our pleasure. I hope that you're staying safe at home in quarantine. I mean, talk about customer experience, right? We never imagined this.
Definitely, definitely. I hope everyone stays safe. You stay safe as well. It's yeah. Hopefully it won't stay long. But again,
Yeah.
I think the positives, looking at it that way, the
Yeah.
positives coming out of it. It's I think they're going to be shifting a lot of things going on in the
Yeah.
workplace, especially in the workplace, and how the economy works, and how
Yeah.
people view others, and how businesses are run. And I think that is coming out with the positives from it. So hopefully that would be the case.
Yeah, amazing. I'd love to finish with a positive note. Our take on this is, we can turn this quarantine into something positive, into an opportunity
Yes.
to learn, exchange experiences, have interesting conversations, and inspire entrepreneurs. So thank
and
you
and
so much.
and and plug off a bit as well. So if you want to just plug out a bit.
Yes, true. Sah, sah, sah. Yes. Some time for mindfulness, for
Yeah,
yourself, to dedicate to the
yeah,
founder, to the
definitely,
person, right? Yeah.
definitely,
Thank
definitely.
you so much,
Thank
Mohammed.
you very much. Thank you.
Have a good
It was a
evening.
pleasure, and thank you. You
Thank
too.
you,
Thanks a
everyone.
lot.
Thank you for tuning in. Have a good
Thanks.
evening.
Thanks. Bye.